Good morning, good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Mirko. We are plunging away, first coffee for the day, and we're gonna send an invite to our next guest to hop on online with us. Today is gonna be Nolan Hirte from Proud Mary, and he's already in the house, so I'm going to finish this off, turn off the light, because we got plenty of natural light, and you're in for a treat. Got coffee, got my questions, and we got Nolan, and there's a few people in the house already. Ben from Tin Man, good to see you, Big Ben. Finca, Alirez, Brew, Saeed, good to see you all. Let's bring the man on. Hey man.
What's up, brother? How's it going?
What's up, dude? Good to meet you. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man.
I love the shirt. Look at that. It's sticking out properly. Love it. I think... Oh, now I can hear the noise, yeah. Brew, this is the best part of your day. Thanks, man. Pakas, hi, Nolan.
Sorry, dude.
No, probably sorry, man.
I had some tunes cranked into my headphones and I couldn't hear. How you doing?
I'm fantastic, man. How you doing? You chipping away with, being super busy. And before anything, how's you and your family doing, and the Proud Mary fam with the pandemic? How's everyone doing over there and over here? Everyone okay on your side?
Man, we're doing really good, dude. It's kind of obviously a massive shift for everyone and a huge adjustment and change. But I think coming from Australia, like what we grew up with in Australia, our culture is definitely roll the sleeves up, let's just get this done. And so we never turned the lights off. We just had to adapt. And it's very different, obviously, living in the US, man, to what you guys are facing in Australia. It's kind of hard to see the end of the road here. It doesn't look like there's a solution coming anytime soon. So we're just trying to adapt to what we've got. And I mean, when it hit here, it was kind of hard to know what to do. The first thing I did was repaint the wall, fix the wall, reseal all the tables, and just started to clean the place, man. And it felt like I just need to put some love in somewhere and keep that energy in somewhere. And a week went by, and I really didn't want my wife to have to go to the supermarket to go shopping. It's kind of like a little scary right now. So I decided that we would start ordering in some fruit and veg, some produce, and see if the neighbours in the community would like that delivered to their doorstep. And then that suddenly blew up. It was kind of like suddenly we had a whole new business, man, where we're in the van delivering fruit and veg boxes. And then we're like, well, let's make some sausage rolls and let's make some meat pies because they don't really exist here in the US. And so no one actually knew what a sausage roll was. So we launched the sausage roll in the middle of the pandemic and started selling 50 sausage rolls a day. And then at some point, feels like about a month ago, people started to feel more comfortable about going to the shops, and that business just started to kind of decline. And we've got, fortunately, man, in Portland, we've got I guess a bench seat in the front window, and so it's a roller door that comes up. And there's a bench seat there with about 5 or 6 stools where customers would sit normally. and we decided to turn that front part of the shop into a little mini cafe, kind of like walk-up window. So we plexiglassed it out, left a little space for it, and then put a Lamazocco in there, put the EKs there, 3 of them, of course, and then actually there's 4 grinders, and then the fridges, the freezers, and started offering all the drinks, and are now doing like a really awesome little takeaway business out of this window. And it's a really safe environment. We're wearing gloves, we're wearing masks. We don't really have to have any contact with the customer. So I feel good about the staff being in a safe environment. And the community's stoked, man. The fact that we can still feed the community and offer drinks for them, and we're not going to do any harm or spread anything around. That was our main priority, man. You know.
That's super good. Yeah, for sure. Like, it's crazy because, like you said, over here it's so different. Like, I barely see gloves and masks. You know, it's like barely.
Well, and that's probably okay though, man. I mean, you have barely any cases in Australia. You know, like we're
100%. Yeah, it sounds yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my family is all in Italy, so, you know, kind of more of a similar situation than USA compared to Australia. Similar in terms of percentage and numbers, but yeah. Thanks for that, man. I think it put things in perspective for Aussies, how lucky we've been and we've given for granted. So I think that the people who are complaining that, you know, they can't go to 50 people gathering, you know, we should, you know, take 10 steps back for sure. But, I mean, Nolan, thanks for coming on such a busy schedule. I know we tried to tie this up, but it's difficult time zones and you're super busy. You're considered one of the coffee pioneers people, especially here in Melbourne. But can you just give us a ooze on how did you actually start your coffee journey? Yeah,
man. It actually is 22 years ago, dude. Getting old, man. It was in New Zealand, in Christchurch, and I studied hospitality at the Christchurch College, and at the end of that we had to do 2 weeks work experience, and I did 2 weeks work experience at a place called Cafe Roma, and that was washing dishes, and I made sure I washed those dishes faster than anyone else, man. And they called me Turbo, and in 2 weeks I got a job. And that happened to be a place that 22 years ago actually really cared about their coffee and was, you know, using Supreme. I forget the name of the machine, old school, La San Marco. And I remember that it was a plastic tamper those days, dude.
Yeah, I remember those.
I remember when the aluminium tamper came out, we were like, whoa, this is crazy. And I learned to make coffee for myself. And one day, the owner comes over and he's like, hey, Nolan, if you want, why don't you make this coffee for the customer? I'm like, well, dude, seriously? Okay, great. And I was so excited, man. Like, I have creative juices for sure. And so I poured everything I had into this cup of coffee just to make it the best coffee I possibly could. And I sent it out to the table. And I remember going round to the back table, and I'm looking around the corner and watching. And this lady grabs a cup of coffee and kind of like eyes roll back in her head, shoulders relax back. I could hear her sigh from the other side of the room. And it hit me like right here, man. I'm like, oh, that's so good. Like that's something that I did. And I just made someone's day that little bit better. And man, that love for making someone a cup of coffee has not gone. It just hasn't gone away. I get a lot of pleasure out of it. And my role and my job has changed so many times in those years, and probably get pushed more and more to sitting behind a laptop or a computer. But I love to get behind the bar and just make someone a cup of coffee and have a conversation and like help them feel like love through that cup, man. It's really special.
That's beautiful, and I think even the fact that you so vividly remember a memory of a while back is just such a, you know, it just tells the story. I think lots of us forget those little memories unless they're meaningful. Obviously, it was meaningful.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to that, that's how I got my start. But the fire in the belly, like where Proud Mary came from, it had to do with my first trip traveling to Bali and Sumatra, and that would have been like 9 years later, you know, and I finally got to see where coffee came from, and I was really upset and kind of frustrated, and seeing how hard the women were working, kind of how lazy the men were in Bali in particular. It seemed like that. That was my impression. Yet the men were earning $2 a day and the girls were earning $1. And it kind of like was just like, hang on a minute, that's not right. Later that year, we went to Sumatra, and there was 12 of us picking coffee cherries high in the mountains above Lake Takanyon, sun beating down, hot, steep slope. 12 of us for 4 hours picked coffee cherries and got about 12 kilos of cherry. By the time you dry that down, process it, it's like 2 kilos of green. By the time you roast it, you know, 1.5 kilos of coffee. One girl picks 70 kilos a day and gets $1 for it. And yeah, my head just went, this is fucked. And I got back to Melbourne, and I was at Liar in Hawthorne, and a customer came in, and she's like, $3.20 for a latte? I can get that for $2.80 in Balaclava. And I'm like, well, you know what you can fucking do? You can go to Balaclava and you can drink that shit because you have no idea where it fucking comes from. And we're trying to buy coffee directly from people and come from a good place. And so suddenly I realized I had this like crazy burning passion to help change people's perspective on what coffee is and can be, and try to become famous, try to become an industry leader, try to like lead by example so that others would follow.
Yeah, and then sorry, I laughed because that made my day. I mean, it's actually sad. It's not, you know, but I can relate to that because I've been behind bars in Melbourne, and yeah, I've heard that 1,000 times at least. You probably heard it 1,000,000 times, and yeah, I get you. So, could you briefly tell us, I guess, from there, that was, you know, the fire was already on, because you said the fire was from that first cup in Christchurch, you know. Yep. But Bali trip just put diesel on top of the fire. So briefly, what's the idea behind Primary and Anti-Pegs? And, you know, it would be great also to hear the stories behind the names for people who...
Yeah, I mean, I worked really hard in the last few years trying to articulate what it is that we stand for and what we're about, and what's our compass, what's our purpose. And I was able to boil it down to 3 kind of like key points as our purpose, and that is to excite customers, make a difference, and share stories. And so we've been working really hard trying to get people excited about coffee, be really conscious about how we can make a difference, and share those beautiful stories of where it comes from. And it's something that, I mean, right now in a global pandemic, more than ever, we miss feeling connected, man. And to be able to I can't wait to be able to just hug a friend again, man, and connect with people.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, coffee is fantastic, but it wouldn't be possible without the people and the community. I mean, from origin to roasters, from baristas to consumer. But I feel that even before the pandemic, we forgot about that. We put so much our eyes in a 45-degree angle, looking at the cup, at the jug, at the texture of the milk. I think that we kind of forgot the people a little, especially behind the bar. And it created a little bit of a gap. I think that now more than ever after the pandemic, the overall experience of specialty, especially from walking the first step into the doors all the way to they leave the store, combined to human connection, interaction could actually save our industry, because I think that we shifted away from it. Maybe it's the next new trend. It's, hey, let's get back to people. You know, it's like,
I mean, 100%, dude. I mean, we were so fortunate in Melbourne to be early on the scene, and that was such a blessing, dude, to be able to be pioneers, like you said. We were pioneers in the scene in Melbourne, and it was right place and right time. And as it blew up in Melbourne, it became harder and harder for us to have a voice. The noise level just got louder, and everywhere you looked, there was a specialty coffee shop doing pour-overs and with weird, interesting names.
Yeah.
And what does it mean? And the customers suddenly like, what do you mean, Gethambuini? And what is Margaripe? And what is a honey process? And it kind of, I feel like it almost lost the value a little bit. And that is why I opened Honey Pegs. I mean, for me, it was like, well, fuck this. Proud Mary is not just another cafe in Melbourne. It has a heart and soul, and it comes from a place that's like really special. And Honey Pegs was an opportunity for me to strip it right back and go, okay, let's just black coffee only, no milk, no sugar. And you know what? It's not about how many lattes you can sell. It's about how well you can tell the story, and to be the ambassador for the brand. And so we kind of like switched the focus and just literally be on the coffee and the producers and where it comes from. And then started to change our focus to be around, well, how can we create educational experiences for the consumer, but also the staff? I mean, it's so hard. I remember traveling all around the world, sourcing these incredible coffees, and then struggling to articulate that and share that with the staff. You can easily lose engagement with someone very quickly around coffee, because I could fucking out-talk anyone on coffee. I'm eternally excited by it. And the idea was, well, let's like try and make it interesting and engaging to explore what coffee is. And so different processing methods, different varietals. Yeah, and that's kind of how that came about. And at some point, Melbourne became like less interesting for me, and the US became really interesting. And I could see that Melbourne had a shitstorm coming, man. We could see years ago, we're like, hey, there are 8 cafes opening a week. That's not fucking sustainable, dude. And they just kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. And we got our mothership built, and we were ready to open up more stores in Melbourne. And I kind of got to the point where I'm like, you know what? It's way riskier for us to sign a lease in Melbourne than it is to fly to the other side of the world and start all over again.
And I think, because I used to work for a coffee roaster for a couple of years, then obviously started my own business. But what I've noticed, because I used to be on the road doing, account management and all that jazz, is that more and more what happened is a lot of, Jane and Tom, who work both at a bank or as accountants, they go to their brunch spot on a Sunday, they count the tables, they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Then they're like, oh, $18.50 for smashed avocados. I can do this better. I can put alfalfa on top and a slice of lime instead of lemon. Let's open a cafe. And it's not their fault, because they got sold a dream by, a broker, or, hey, accountant saying, diversify your portfolio. Yeah. All those jazz, and all of a sudden I feel sorry for them, because it's not even their fault. It's like, because of such a lot of noise, it's got louder, and then you start forgetting to hear the basics. And unfortunately, a lot of people got hurt. And I've seen them, the 6, 12, 15 kilos of coffee a week. And you walk in and you're like, shit, like, this is real. Like, and then that's when it's scary, because like, I will never, ever, ever start a plumbing business, because I struggle to change a light bulb, dude. Like, and yet there's people who open cafes on a regular basis daily, and they never even wash the dishes. Let's go back to the turbo story, you know, like they never wash the dishes, bro. Forget about making coffee or being a chef. At least if you can make coffee, I'd say my general rule of thumb is don't start with a shop with a kitchen. Do something that you can make. How are you going to replace the chef when he walks away or she walks away? But if you can't make coffee and you can't cook, that's trouble, man.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that for some reason hospitality seems really romantic. It's like, oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I want to do one of those. I want to have a cafe one day, and I might get one for my wife. And we'll get a manager, and everything's going to be great. And the amount of times I've had to bluntly tell people, I'm like, look, please don't open a cafe, don't do a restaurant, unless you have some burning desire to, you know, understand the why. Because you're going to work your freaking ass off. And I definitely have sacrificed a lot in my life, man, for what I love. And that's come at a cost, man. You know, like my kids are growing up. They're like 6 and 9. And I'm now only just starting to like realize I need to carve out more time. I've poured so much into my work that I've forgotten a little bit about me, man. And it's just, that's the industry, dude. So like I'm super thankful, and we're so blessed to be in it. But it's a passion and love. And you speak to anyone in the industry, man. Like you speak to the producers, the guys that produce really special coffee. They are not doing it to make money, man. They love it, and they want to hear our feedback and get enjoyment, and to know that someone's enjoying it. It's a love thing.
100%. And I was lucky to speak to Raul Rivera in El Salvador, amazing producer and farmer, and Joseph Brodsky, obviously from 90 Plus. And, you know, like, and I had private conversations with them apart from the live stream. And it's like, you know, nothing comes for free, nothing. And, you know, like people think, oh, well, because they charge this much, they must be making money. But reality is that, you know what, the best comment is that nothing romantic, someone wrote, nothing romantic about flushing drainage pipes with old milk, from Josh Dan. So I think that, you know what, I think that sums it perfectly.
Yeah.
So Nolan, it's a big industry, yet it's a small word. In fact, for instance, I just found out 2 days ago that a very good friend of mine, an ex-colleague, started working at Antipex like a week ago.
Okay.
And I'm like, dude, what do you mean? Like I'm meeting, you know, virtually Nolan on Wednesday, and it's like, yeah, I started there. So it's such a small word. But could perhaps make this big family, could we make it a little bit more united? I think that because of the noise, we kind of forgot that to stick all together with the, you know, the specialty fam, because, you know, we make such a smaller percentage compared to the big guys. And yet we find ourselves to fight, and, you know, like, can we maybe reunite?
Absolutely, dude. I mean, it's funny that you bring it up, because I kind of felt like I really had no idea what you wanted to speak about today. But one thing that I've been really working on is how do we grow the specialty coffee industry? Forget fighting within ourselves, man. What's the fucking point, dude? We're, like you said, we're a small percentage of the whole market.
Yeah.
And what's funny is no one actually fucking understands coffee. Well, there's a small group of us that are like, yeah, we know what that is. We know what that is. You know, you go to buy a bottle of wine, and you know that the difference between a Pinot and a Cab Sav and a Shiraz. You know how to navigate the wine aisle. You know, you go to get a beer. You know the difference between an IPA and a Pilsner and Stout. Yeah. You buy what you like. You stand in front of a wall of coffee. What are you going to do? No one has any freaking clue how to navigate what am I going to get, and what is the style of coffee. And I think as an industry, we've done a pretty shitty job of helping the general consumer understand and navigate it. And we focus so much on who's got the freaking best, and not really lent a helping hand for people to come up. And so we've just launched here, man. During the pandemic, we've just launched a whole new range of packaging in the US, and it's based around grouping coffee into categories. And the idea is that mild
cool.
to wild. So we've got a mild category that is all in blue.
Nice.
And warm hug. That's all it says. It just says Brazil, Mantequilla de Minas, warm hug. And that is the style of coffee that is, man. It's going to give you a warm hug. It's a mild, easy drinking, approachable coffee. In yellow, we've got something a little bit more quirky. It's from Honduras. It's Patanema from Ovidio Gomez. It's a dope coffee, man. I mean, Patanema, it's definitely a bit more interesting. And then
quirky.
And then we can get wild, dude, and we're in the pink, and it's like full noise and things like loud as fuck. They're kind of like we put a little bar on it that's like mild.
That's
purist,
super
wild.
cool, man. I love that.
We're just trying to help people, navigate coffee in how it feels. What mood are you in? You know.
And I'm so happy that you brought up wine and beer after showing me, especially that package, because it's safe to say that coffee is way underpriced. Yet there's people spending $12, $15, $18, $20 on a glass of single wine, on a pint of beer, on a pop. Yeah. But I think the beer industry is probably an interesting one, and there was someone making a comment there, how they are outwitting us. And I think it's right, because even in terms of packaging and look and feel, I don't really drink too much. It's just something that I don't know why, but I don't really drink much, but here and there I do. And sometimes when I walk into the bottle, I get these, walls of amazing art on cans, especially. Lately, I've seen so much cool artwork on cans, and I'm like, that's cool, man. And I think that coffee, we kind of started that perhaps, with the cool, funky shit. And I think we kind of, I don't know why, but we kind of got stuck. We reached a plateau when the beer company was like, hey, look at the coffee industry. They're doing that. Let's do it. But perhaps we should look at wine and beer and start charging a little bit more for our coffee. Letting people know why they pay more for coffee.
Sure.
And go back on their art, like
tins, dude.
Tins, that's it.
That's amazing, man. In a global pandemic, people want to feel good, dude, and high-end, expensive products. I mean, you can't sell a bag for like $100. It's not going to happen. But you can sell a smaller tin for $25, and it'll freaking happen all day long. So we've actually also kind of like tried to find ways that we can raise the price, man, because at the end of the freaking day, the only way that this industry is going to be sustainable is if the consumer pays for it. The consumer has to put the money where the mouth is. And if you keep trying to buy coffee for $3, dude, then that cafe owner is going to have to keep trying to buy coffee for under $30 a kilo. At $30 a kilo in Australia, man, it's going to be pretty mediocre coffee.
100%. And I had a very similar conversation with Mark Dowden just last week, and obviously he's another cat who's all about pricing as well. But what's upsetting is that I went back home about 2 years ago and back in Italy, and I drove 2.5 hours to a specialty shop that's, I didn't drink coffee for the whole week, and I was like, no, fuck this, I'm gonna drive to Brescia. And I went to Tostato and Alberto, big shout out to the boys from Tostato. He opened this amazing specialty shop. Honestly, you walk in, you forgot that you're in Italy. Like, you feel like you are in Brunswick or Collingwood or, it's that good. Anyway, and we start drinking coffee and I start asking him questions on how much specialty roaster charge him and whatnot. What was upsetting is that commercial coffee in Italy per kilo cost more than our specialty coffee in Melbourne per kilo in average. And when I start telling him some prices of, where I was working, the market in Melbourne, he could not believe it. I was like, nah, you're joking. even with the dollar difference, and I was converting, and it's like, it's stuffed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very different game in the US too, man. I mean, we've kind of quickly learned that. One of the real aha moments in the pandemic for us was we obviously lost our wholesale business. All the cafes closed.
Yeah.
And so we really focused on the consumer and online, and that has been our push. And we did less kilos. Did less kilos of coffee, that we normally would, and made a higher return and more profit. And we're kind of sitting there scratching our heads like, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And so selling coffee direct to the consumer is actually like really interesting for us in the US. And I think like we've been somewhat held mercy to wholesale and other cafes, because there's a fear for them to put their price up. If the cafe owner could put their price up 50 cents, $1, then they can actually afford to spend more money on where they get their coffee from and have something friggin' real. If you keep it at $3, yes, again, same story. You're stuck.
And also to touch on that, we go back on the overall experience and the social aspect and connection, because I think that we can't just put prices up and maintain the experience and the service level where is that. I think that we lost the art of service and people a little bit because we're so focused in the cup, like I said before. So I think if we put the prices up, we need to have a higher focus on the overall service of the experience inside the cafe.
Sure.
But what I love what you said about e-commerce is that with my customers, what I've been talking to them over the phone is that the next 12 to 36 months, e-commerce in any businesses is going to play an extremely vital role, because guess what? Jonathan, who's an introverted guy, and that's okay, and he hates going to the gym because it's too crowded. He learned now that he can do personal training session cheaper on Zoom on his living room, and he can hop in the shower once it's finished. Same with coffee. I learned that now I can make a beautiful coffee because primary tutorial video talk to me how to do a V60. I'm going to buy more online. So I think the online game is going to go stronger and stronger.
Yeah.
And I think the people who are going to get out there, especially at the very start of easing restriction, they want that human love and connection, because like you missed a hug from your friends, they're going to value hopefully more that barista smile, welcoming, and love and nurturing in the cup, also verbally.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it is an art, dude, and getting coffee to sing and to taste good and have a different offerings available, and the way someone makes you feel, man. And again, like when you pour your love into making that cup of coffee for someone, that's a special thing, man, and it's definitely it's worth something,
Yeah. And usually at the halfway mark, I ask this question. It's a bit out of box, but if you could choose, who would you like to have dinner with?
That's an interesting question, man. I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd love to have dinner with someone that is sitting in an interesting position of like power, or like some smarts in the world. I feel like there's a lot of technology out there these days, and it's like what we're able to do with that technology is crazy, and I don't know that we're using it for the right things, man. So I kind of feel like, I mean, I hate to say the name, but Bill Gates or someone would be interesting to have dinner with, man.
Absolutely. There's no right or wrong answer. Yeah, I think that would be interesting, but it's the attack of Max said that he, he's free. So
yeah. Max a legend, dude. We love Max.
Now, just a quick curiosity before I say that. Ellie is saying, I think it's a great chance for the industry to be like, hey, look, a good flat white should be around 6 right now, and people will appreciate the like you say. Yeah, I think so too. I think we're gonna see some things after the pandemic for sure, and hopefully we'll best. I actually don't know this answer. What's your living arrangements in America? Like, do you live 6 months and 6 months, or you live
I've been here
permanent?
for the last 3 years, man. So full time, and I have my wife and kids here. So we literally moved over and started all over again. And Australia, we've just got incredible people that have been like not just holding it down, but making it thrive for us, man. And the reason that we worked so hard on getting our understanding of our purpose and our goals was so that everyone could like get a real clear vision on what we stand for. And it's amazing when you offer up trust and empowerment to people, what they will do with that. And so we're so thankful and grateful for our family and crew in Australia that have been like kicking goals, you know.
Big shout out, yeah, absolutely. I think I think it's like when you see kids and you're like, oh, they're such good kids, and then you look at the parents and like, oh yeah, that makes absolute sense. I think you and your I guess for the senior crew are good people, and they follow along. It's like great to hear.
I can see someone from Brazil. Big hug to Brazil out there, man. I mean, we love Brazil, dude. I mean, just to put it out there, but we've always loved trying to help to show the underdogs, man. Underdogs. Even though Brazil are the biggest coffee producers in the world, people forget the level of quality that Brazil can play at, dude. And I've been seeing some coffees coming out of that country that are blowing geisha from Panama out of the water, man. And it's so cool to see that has a lot to do with the level of detail and processing and care and love that people pour in. So,
heck yeah.
Big love, Brazil.
100%. I was lucky to cup a lot of Brazilian coffee with Charlotte when I was working for Toby's, and it blew my mind. This was 2 years ago, so yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Well, I would love to ask you what you miss about Melbourne, but also, after a few years in the USA, what would you take away from the USA and bring to Melbourne? What is America in coffee doing better than Melbourne or Australia?
You know what, man? I think we're just learning really now. Probably the online piece, the e-commerce, the direct-to-consumer, and the supermarket, like the grocery kind of like space, is actually really interesting in the States. I mean, there's 320 million people here in the US. It's very different to 24 million in Australia. But being able to make coffee more accessible to everyone, I think that's really cool. And as we learn the ropes here, I really want to kind of probably switch up focus in Australia to that space, man. I don't think hinging everything on just one part of the market for your business is smart. I think it's important to kind of like have a few different revenue streams. The way I see it, if we can grow our retail market and direct to consumer, then that I'm not going to be held mercy to wholesale so hard, and I'll put the price up. And if you want to buy a coffee from us, there's the price. And that's just how it is, because I want to buy better coffee and I want to support the producers, and I don't want to be like forced to, buy something cheaper and with no connection. It's really important that that we pay up and that we charge accordingly.
I couldn't agree more. And I think I was talking to Scott, and obviously Scott Rao, and he was saying, and I'd love to hear your take on it, that definitely he saw Melbourne batch brew culture quite weak compared to the USA.
What batch brew culture? I mean, it's a new thing for us in Australia, dude. And you know what? It used to piss me off, man. I used to get really wound up when I'd hear like someone's doing batch brew in Melbourne. I'm like, fucking, what are they doing batch brew for? We never had it. It wasn't there. I mean, we were like, it was literally me and Mark Dundon 12 years ago. that had the first clovers in Australia, and everyone was like, "What the fuck's a clover? $14,000 to what? To brew filter?" And then everyone's like, "No one drinks filter in Australia. Why are you doing that?" And so what's important to understand is two completely different markets.
Yeah.
The US always had this culture for batch brew, and it was not specialty, it was batch brew. It was just a mug of Joe and hurry up and, you know, $1, $2 cheap. In Australia, we've had espresso machines in Australia since the 50s. The US didn't get an espresso machine to the like mid 70s. And thanks to Italy, man. I mean, right. And then, so Australia was either instant coffee at home or at work, instant coffee, or you'd go get an espresso. And that's been our culture. You couldn't go get batch brew or filter. And when we introduced filter coffee to the scene in Melbourne 12 years ago, man, I started at $6 a cup. And it's probably going to take me 15 minutes to make it, because it was like, it was a specialty thing. It wasn't like there's just a mug of coffee. And I can see the challenges here in the US, because people were like, well, why should I pay more for it? And why is it taking so long? And we've intentionally put our prices up on pour over coffee here. And it would, the minimum for us would be $6 a cup for a pour over. And it goes up to like $13, $15 a cup. And that's US dollar. I think that's it's really important to charge for the fact that something's handmade per cup, as opposed to we're just going to knock a batch of this out. And so I used to be quite defensive about batch brew coming into the Melbourne scene, because I was like, well, why do we need this? It's not like there's a big crew of people demanding filter. We had to work really hard to grow that scene. And I really liked that we were able to charge more for it.
100%. And I think it's super interesting, you know, the difference of markets. It's just crazy, you know. It's just crazy, even in terms of equipment, because like we were saying, you know, like in Melbourne, our batch brew equipment is not up to scratch because we don't have the demand. So it's interesting, you know, like it's almost like a domestic item, you know. Yep. That's so true. And sticking with Melbourne, I suppose it is still considered a capital of coffee, where lots of, you know, USA baristas and from all over the world coming over. Also thanks to your vision and, you know, all the cats that we know the names of. But if you could change one single thing of Melbourne, what would that be?
If I could change?
One thing of Melbourne coffee scene.
Oh, man, I mean, it's a bit hard for me to say because I've been away for the last few years. I think, off the top of my head, man, I feel like kind of that connection piece and how we help bring people up and connect people to where coffee comes from. That also ties to charging accordingly, man, for something special. I think if I could, you know, influence or change what the Melbourne scene was doing, I would definitely say that I think pour over coffee versus batch brew is still relevant, and we should pay more for it. And it's definitely like something special about someone making you just that single cup of coffee. I'm not saying batch brew should go away, but I think we should not lose sight of just coffee in its raw format.
Yeah, and I think you're so right when it comes to handcraft. So, for instance, I'm not trying to give away ideas, but you see anti-pegs, it's done right in front of you, right? But not everyone has that set up, and not everyone can afford to have, you know, 12 chairs or how many chairs are there. But I think that I still haven't seen many shops, and I know there's a little bit of security issues here, but why, you know, there's a Japanese fine dining restaurant and they have what they call the table. That's experience, you know, it's like it's almost a round table, similar to bags, and they cook in front of you and whatnot. Obviously, they charge more, but it's the experience. So I think there's still an element where shops could have the table where you sit down and you have a dedicated barista to pour for you. They would pay more. But if the manual brew is done in the back alley or in the kitchen and nobody see it, it's like, where's my coffee versus, hey, I'm making it right in front of you. I'm grinding, smell.
100%, man. I mean, you're right. Smell, the what's happening in front of you. It's the romance of it all that makes it so special, dude. And coffee is such a amazing thing to celebrate. And if you miss out on the aroma and you miss out on like seeing that happen, it's a loss, dude. It makes me think of a restaurant here in Portland, Guru, and they've only got 16 seats. And what's cool, man, they've only got I think it's one or two sittings a night. And basically, if you get the 7 o'clock sitting, you show up at 6:30, and you wait in the waiting room with everyone else that's going to have dinner. And so suddenly you're chatting with the other people, and you kind of make friends. The next minute you're sitting down, and there's I think it's about 18 courses, and they're little courses. But what happens is the chef, amazing chef, will place up those 16 portions for each guest right in front of you. So you're sitting there watching something happen. And there's that anticipation of, fuck, I wonder what that's going to taste like. Look at that. The next minute, the chef is explaining to you what you're about to consume.
Yeah.
It's that care and that love and that attention to detail that makes that so friggin' delicious, man. And I can remember eating some very special meals in Melbourne where we paid a lot of money for, and the technique was like off the wall, but it was over my head. I like couldn't even understand how it was made. And so having that someone guide you along the way, it's a special thing, man.
But also then you can justify paying a little bit more.
Absolutely. I mean, you'd be like, hey, take my money. Take my money, man.
That's it. It's like, because also, going back to Joanne and Jonathan, I'm going to, go to their friend's house and they're like, hey, we paid $15-20 for a cup of coffee. But then there's a story. Oh, there was a cute barista full of tattoos, with a special something, was brewing it. He told us this. Did you know that coffee comes from cherry? There's still people don't know it's a free, and it changes versus even a meal. It's cooked in the back of the kitchen.
Yeah.
You're not seeing it. You're waiting. You're like, oh, it's taking longer than usual.
You know what's interesting about that thought, man, is why? Why do that? And, to show off, to show that you're smarter or better than, man, that doesn't help anyone. But if you can do it to help change someone's perspective of how beautiful coffee is and why it's worth more money, man, that's a home run, dude. And when you come from that place, hey, let me just help you have a better experience at home or right now. It takes the wanker kind of feeling away from what specialty coffee can be like sometimes, man.
Yeah, and look, not to suck it up here, but when my parents came over to visit me, I mean, and you know what kind of coffee they'll be drinking, their mom's favorite coffee is Illy pre-ground in a tin. Right. I don't want to get sued by Illy, but that's what she drank, and that's all right. I took them to Antipags for that exact reason. I was like, okay, where can I go that they're gonna understand why we're gonna pay more and do a flight? It's like, I think we need more of those experiences, then we might broaden the vision of more people.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. I mean, that was so much fun building out that space, dude. That was like my homage to coffee, man. I kind of wanted to help people just fall in love with coffee and to be able to see the whole process and the noises and the sounds and the aroma. It's really cool, man.
Yeah. Josh Stan saying 1 hour book table, personal barista would be such a crazy cool concept for a coffee shop. Well, watch out, Portland. Let's not give Nolan too many ideas. What do you miss more about Melbourne? What do you miss from Melbourne?
I mean, the food scene, dude. I mean, the culture. We don't have the same range of culture here in Portland. I definitely the Asian influence that Melbourne has, the Indian community, the Sudanese, the Greek food, the Italian food. Man, I mean, so lucky to have that diversity,
Yeah.
and that's what makes Melbourne so special, dude. And I'll always miss that. The warmer weather and the sunshine. I mean that too, but yeah.
Yeah, because I'm an expat as well, so sometimes, yeah, there's things that we miss. Yeah, and look, Melbourne definitely is it's been and it keeps being a hotspot, and I'm actually very happy to see that Sydney, on my last few trips that I've done for work, Sydney's come a long way.
Yeah.
A huge way there. Nolan, we talked and we covered so many cool concepts and cool topics. What's your coffee mission?
What's my mission? Man, I mean it's a lifetime quest, dude. I remember kind of like when I like had that burning fire kind of moment in Sumatra, man. It was just to be able to make a difference, dude, and to kind of put a dent in the industry, man, and like really again change people's perspective on what coffee can be. And it's such a beautiful thing, man. We're so blessed to be in it. We need to again pay what it's worth and charge what it's worth and appreciate its value and its place here, man. It's an essential service, brother. You know, everything else fucking shut down. The community needed a coffee, man, and it was amazing to see that smile on people's face during these kind of like darker days, and just to kind of like, hey guys, everything's gonna be okay. Have a cup of coffee and like, you know. So I would love to think that somehow we've made some small difference to that, man. You know.
And well, all they needed was a warm hug.
Exactly. Yeah. From Brazil.
No, that's amazing to hear. And I know Instagram is a cutthroat platform. You know, they shut us straight up 30-second alarm. So before that happens, and before I ask you the last question, I want to hugely thank you for giving us an hour of your time. I feel super grateful, blessed to have at least met you virtually. I'm definitely gonna hit the anti-peg scene because Max is there now, so I'm gonna I've got an extra excuse to get there. And thank you for coming on. I think what you just shared with us is just super valuable for people going to rewatch it. People who are not usually on this time, it's just going to be really cool. And I feel super grateful for it.
I appreciate your work, man.
No, thank you, Nolan, for sure, for what you do for the community, for coffee, for Portland, for Melbourne, and for what you've been doing for the coffee family, really. But the last question usually is, what's next on Nolan's planet? Yeah,
I mean, well, before COVID hit, bro, we were planning to move to Austin, man. We had a site lined up and we're ready to open up in Austin. And fortunately, we didn't sign the lease. We were right there, ready to sign it. And then everything kind of blew up. So that on the other side of this, whenever that is, and who knows when, that's still on the radar. But in the meantime, we're going to shift our focus to online and e-commerce and getting coffee out to people, man, and trying to make special coffee accessible.
Yeah. Are you going to come down to Melbourne anytime soon?
Maybe, dude. We've got a new roaster coming to the roastery in Melbourne, so I'd love to see that get live and help with the install. That comes mid-June. Who knows, man, with this pandemic in the US, if it doesn't go away anytime soon, maybe we'll come back to Australia for a bit.
Yeah,
I want to see my kids go back to school, man. It's kind of hard for them.
Yeah, I bet you. But I suppose closing on a positive note, granted the health and granted basic financial, for essentials, this has also been a good time for us to have an inner journey, self-improvement, but also spending time with our loved ones. You know, I think it's a great thing. And look, the best thing that I've heard about COVID-19, and I think it pushed it in perspective, is that if it happened 3 months earlier, Kobe Bryant would still be alive.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it just puts things in perspective, and some lives have been saved from car crashes, and
Sure.
it's just, we just gotta start to think positive and stick together for sure, man. And yeah.
Yeah, no, man, hey, we're all going through some serious inner changes right now, dude, and transformation and a shift, and that can only be a good thing, man. As challenging as it is, that's the real work here on this planet, anyway, man. Is to kind of like stay connected and stay in touch with things, man. You know,
We're doing it through coffee. Nolan,
Exactly.
thank you so much. I'll leave it to your family and all your amazing work that you do. Again, thank you, and I hope to hit me up when you come down to Melbourne.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, brother. Much love, man.
Thanks, dude.
See you, dude. Peace, bro.
There you have it.
Morning session for Melbourne time. It's just been very humbling and incredibly. I'm full of great gratitude towards Nolan and towards all of you watching, of course. If you enjoyed this, feel free to reshare, retweet, do all the social stuff. We're gonna repost this as a IGTV because my Instagram has been cooked up in the last few weeks. Maybe I've done too many lives, and Instagram is putting a handbrake on me because it doesn't allow me to reshare as a story. If you're new, we had other interviews with other people. You can check it out on the YouTube channel. You just type in Coffee with Mirko. We talked to Team Wendelbo, Scott Rao, this guy here, Brew Theory, that just commented, so Anthony, and a lot of other great guys, and everyone has a story. I need to digest the few things that Nolan has talked about. I think that there's a lot of value in it, and there's a lot of powerful lessons to be learned, and I really feel appreciative for it. So appreciative for all of you watching, all the people who are going to rewatch these or re-listen on our podcast. Stephanie, you're right, we got this. I feel for all of you watching from the USA. I spoke to Lam Butler and Andrea Allen from there. You guys have it tougher, so stay strong, stay safe, stay positive. And for the Australians who are watching or listening or in other parts of the world, we're lucky that it's not as bad. We just need to keep it this way and feel gratitude for it. But yeah, tomorrow we are hosting Hugh Kelly, multiple Australian barista champion, and he's obviously one of the faces of Honor Coffee. So if you like to tune in for tomorrow, it's going to be 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, until then, big shout out to Brew Theory, Anthony, Kevin, Stephanie, the coffee. Thanks for being here all this time. Those, we go Elefandi, Oromo Coffee Beans, Kennedy, Jeanette, Mojitaba, Mojtaba. So yeah, thank you all for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, just take it easy, be safe, and just spread the coffee love.